We were already dead, and everyone on the battlefield knew it. The sky above was dark not because of night, but because of smoke-burning ships and falling debris. The ground was broken, filled with fire and shattered machines. The air felt heavy, hard to breathe. The alien soldiers who were still alive stood in silence. They did not speak. They did not move. There was nothing left to do. Their weapons were almost empty. Their defenses were gone, and the enemy army was closing in from every side, slow, confident, unstoppable. This was the end. One of the soldiers looked around at what was left of his unit, a few survivors injured, tired. Waiting, he lowered his weapon slightly, not in surrender, but because there was no reason to hold it anymore. Everyone understood. No one was coming. No one could come. Far above the battlefield, the sky flickered with distant explosions as ships were destroyed one after another. The last defense line had fallen. The command signals were gone. Silence had replaced everything. Even the enemy slowed down as they moved forward, not because they feared resistance, but because they wanted to see the final moment. They wanted to watch hope disappear. The alien soldier closed his eyes for a brief second, not in fear, but in acceptance. This was how it ended. Far from home, far from victory. He opened his eyes again, and something felt different at first. It was small, almost nothing, a strange feeling. Like the air had shifted. He looked up slowly. The sky was still dark, still filled with smoke, but something was wrong. The clouds were not moving naturally. They were pulling, stretching, like something unseen was pushing against them from the other side. The soldier frowned. Others began to notice as well. One by one, heads turned upward. Even the enemy paused, confused, watching the sky flickered again. But this time it was not from explosions. It was from light, a strange light, cold, sharp, cutting through the darkness. No sound followed it, no thunder, no warning, just light spreading across the sky like a crack. A thin line at first, then wider, then deeper. The alien soldier felt his heart beat faster, not from fear of death, but from something else, something unknown. The ground trembled slightly, just enough to feel, not enough to understand. The enemy forces shifted uneasily, their advance slowing, their formation breaking just a little. They did not understand what they were seeing. None of them did. The sky continued to change. The crack grew larger, spreading across the darkness. Like reality itself was tearing apart. The light behind it became stronger, brighter, too bright to look at directly. Some soldiers raised their hands to block their vision. Others stepped back without realizing it. The battlefield that had moments ago been filled with death now felt frozen in time. No one attacked. No one moved forward. Everyone was watching. Waiting, the alien soldier took a step back, his body reacting before his mind could catch up. His breathing became faster. He tried to understand what was happening, but there was no answer, no signal, no system warning. Nothing, only that growing crack in the sky. Then a sound came low, deep, not like an explosion, not like a weapon. It felt controlled, intentional, like something was arriving. The crack opened wider and shapes began to appear inside the light. Small at first, distant, falling fast, very fast. The alien soldier narrowed his eyes, trying to see clearly, his heart now pounding. Not from fear, but from something stronger, hope, danger he did not know. The objects grew larger as they fell, cutting through the sky like fire, but they were not burning. They were controlled, guided, aimed. The enemy forces reacted immediately. Weapons raised, targeting systems activated, but none of them fired because something stopped them, something deep inside, something instinctive. The falling shapes were getting closer now, faster, louder. The ground began to shake more violently. Dust rising into the air, the light from the sky reflecting off the battlefield, turning everything into shadows and glow. The alien soldier took another step back, his eyes wide, now locked on the sky, because in that moment he understood one thing. Whatever was coming, it was not the enemy, and it was not normal. The first object hit the ground hard, the impact shaking everything. A shockwave spreading across the battlefield, dust and smoke rising instantly. Then another and another, multiple impacts, perfectly placed, perfectly timed. The battlefield disappeared inside the dust. No one could see. No one could move. Only the sound of something landing, something heavy, something powerful. The alien soldier held his breath, waiting as the dust slowly began to settle and shapes started to form inside it. Tall, still silent, and in that moment he realized they were not saved. They were being judged. The dust did not settle quickly. It moved slowly across the battlefield. Thick, heavy, almost alive, no one dared to step forward. No one dared to fire. Every eye was locked on the places where the objects had fallen. The alien soldiers stood frozen, their weapons lowered not by choice but by instinct. Even the enemy army remained still. Their advance had stopped completely for the first time since the battle began. There was no sound of war, only silence, deep, unnatural. The alien soldier who had been watching from the beginning felt his heartbeat grow louder and his ears each second stretched longer, each breath felt heavier. He tried to focus through the dust to understand what had arrived. But the shapes were still hidden. Only shadows could be seen, tall, unmoving, waiting. The ground beneath his feet trembled again, not from impact this time, but from something else, something controlled, something alive. A faint sound reached his ears. Metal shifting, slow, deliberate, like something adjusting itself. After landing, the dust shifted slightly, just enough for the first figure to become visible. The alien soldier stared, unable to look away. It was not a machine. Not exactly. And not fully organic. A tall figure covered in dark armor, smooth, sharp, almost black, but reflecting the strange light from the sky. Its surface looked damaged in places, but the damage did not weaken it. It made it look stronger, like something that had survived too much. The figure stood still for a moment. Then its head moved slowly, precisely, as if scanning everything around it. The alien soldier felt something deep inside his mind react, a warning, not spoken, not understood, just felt. Danger, pure, danger more. Figures began to appear as the dust continued to fall, one by one, all identical in movement, all silent, all perfectly controlled. They did not rush, they did not show panic, they simply stood, observing, calculating. The enemy forces finally reacted. Their commanders shouted orders. Weapons were raised again. Target locks activated, but hesitation remained. A fraction of doubt. A crack in their confidence. The first shot was fired. A bright beam of energy cutting through the air, heading straight toward one of the armored figures. The alien soldier watched closely, waiting for impact, waiting for destruction. But it did not happen. The figure moved. Not fast. Not rushed. Just enough, just precise. The attack passed beside it, missing by a distance too small to be chance. The figure did not respond immediately. It did not attack. It did not react. It simply continued to stand, as if confirming something, as if learning. Another shot followed, then another, multiple beams crossing the battlefield. Yet every time the same result, missed, avoided. Not by speed, but by knowing. The alien soldier felt his fear grow, because this was not normal movement. This was prediction. The figures were not reacting to attacks. They already knew where the attacks would go. The enemy forces grew desperate. More weapons activated, more fire filled the air. But none of it worked. Each attack failed, each movement of the figures perfect, unchanging, unstoppable. Then one of the armored figures took a step forward. Just one step. But it changed everything. The ground beneath it cracked slightly, not from weight, but from force-controlled force. The figure raised its arms slowly, deliberately, and for a moment, everything stopped. Every weapon, every system, every signal. Silence returned, absolute. The enemy soldiers looked at their weapons, confused. Nothing responded. Nothing worked. The battlefield, that had moments ago been filled with power, now felt empty, helpless. The alien soldier realized something then. These beings were not here to fight. They were here to control, to end. The first figure turned its head toward the alien survivors, just for a brief moment, its face hidden behind a dark visor. But something behind that visor felt human, calm, focused, dangerous. Then it looked back toward the enemy, and in that movement everything became clear. This was not rescue. This was intervention. The other figures began to move as well. Not rushing, not charging, just walking forward step by step. Each movement synchronized, each action connected. The enemy forces began to step back, their formation breaking completely. Now fear spreading through their ranks, real fear, because they understood. They were no longer in control. The alien soldier felt his breath slow, his fear turning into something else. Something stronger, something he had not felt since the battle began. Hope. But it was not the kind of hope that comes with safety. It was the kind that comes with something far more dangerous, something that does not save, something that destroys. The armored figures continued forward, silent, unstoppable. And as the last of the dust cleared, the alien soldier finally understood what had fallen from the sky were not just soldiers. They were something else entirely, something final, something absolute, and the battle that had already ended was about to begin again. But this time it would not be a war. It would be a judgment. The silence after their arrival did not feel like peace. It felt like something waiting, something watching. The armored figures continued to move forward slowly, their steps perfectly aligned, their presence dominating the battlefield, without a single sound. The alien soldier could not look away. His mind was still trying to understand what he was seeing, but his instincts had already accepted the truth. These were not normal warriors. These were something else, something beyond war. The enemy forces were the first to break. Their commanders shouted again, louder this time, filled with panic instead of pride. Orders to fire, to attack, to eliminate the threat. Weapons came alive once more. Energy surged through the battlefield, bright, violent beams cutting through the air. The first armored figure did not stop. It did not hide it, did not defend it, kept walking. The attacks reached it and then passed by, missing again. But this time it was different. The alien soldier saw it clearly. The figure was not moving away from the attacks. It was moving through them, like it already knew their path before they were fired. Like time itself moved slower around it, another figure stepped forward beside it, then another. Their formation expanding, closing the distance, unstoppable. The enemy soldiers began to panic openly now, their shots becoming faster, less controlled, fear replacing strategy. But it made no difference. Every attack failed, every attempt useless. The armored figures reached the front line and everything changed. The first strike came without warning. One of the figures moved closer to an enemy soldier. Its arm lifted slightly, a single motion, quick, precise. The enemy soldier fell instantly, not thrown, not broken, just stopped. As if something inside him had been turned off, the alien soldier felt his breath catch. There was no explosion, no visible damage, just silence. Another movement, followed another enemy, fell, then another. Each action perfect, each result final, no wasted motion, no hesitation. The battlefield that had been filled with chaos now shifted into something else, something controlled, something systematic. The armored figures moved through the enemy lines like shadows. Each step calculated, each action connected. They were not fighting. They were removing threats one by one. The enemy forces tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to go. Their formation collapsed completely, their confidence shattered. Fear spread faster than any weapon. The alien soldier watched as one of the figures stopped in front of a group of enemy elites. These were the strongest warriors on the field, trained for countless battles, built for destruction. They charged together, fast, powerful, coordinated. For a brief moment it looked like resistance might exist, but it ended instantly. The armored figure moved once, just once, and all of them fell at the same time, perfectly timed, perfectly timed. The alien soldier felt something change inside him. His fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Understanding these beings were not just powerful, they were precise, they were efficient, they were final. The battlefield grew quieter. With every second, fewer enemies remained, fewer sounds, until only scattered resistance was left, and even that disappeared quickly. The armored figures did not celebrate. They did not speak. They did not slow down. They simply continued until there was nothing left removed. The last enemy soldier stood alone, his weapon shaking in his hands, his body frozen between fight and fear. One of the armored figures approached him slowly, step by step. The soldier tried to fire, but his weapon failed, dead, useless. The figure stopped in front of him, close, silent. Watching the soldier dropped his weapon, his body giving up, his mind broken. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if observing, as if deciding, then it turned away, leaving him alive. The alien soldier realized something in that moment. They were not destroying everything, they were choosing the battlefield. Finally fell silent again, but this time it was different. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence after something had been decided. The armored figures gathered near the center, standing still once more. Their presence calm, controlled, unchanged. The alien soldier slowly stepped forward, his fear still there but no longer stopping him. He needed to understand. He needed to know. As he got closer, one of the figures turned toward him, its visor reflecting the broken battlefield. And for a brief moment, he saw his own reflection, small, fragile, alive. The figure did not attack it, did not move it, simply looked at him. And in that moment, the alien soldier understood the truth. They had not come to save. They had come to decide who deserved to survive and who did not, and whatever decision they had made was already final. The battlefield no longer sounded like war. It sounded like nothing. No explosions, no shouting, no movement. Only silence, deep and endless. The alien soldier stood still, unable to understand how everything had ended so quickly. Just moments ago, death was everywhere. Now it was gone. Replaced by something far more unsettling: control. The armored figures remained at the center of the battlefield, standing in perfect stillness, their presence heavy, but calm, like a storm that had already passed, but could return at any moment. The surviving alien soldiers slowly began to move carefully, uncertain. They looked at the fallen enemies, then back at the figures, trying to understand what they were supposed to do next. There were no orders, no signals, no command left. Only the unknown one of the alien soldiers gathered enough courage to step forward. His weapon lowered his body. Tense, he moved slowly toward one of the armored figures, each step feeling heavier than the last. The ground beneath him still warm from the battle, his breath uneven, his heart racing, but he kept moving. He needed answers. He stopped a few steps away, close enough to see the details of the armor. Dark, smooth, marked with signs of impact, but not damaged lines of faint light moving beneath the surface, like energy flowing inside, alive. The soldier hesitated, then finally spoke, his voice low, uncertain, asking who they were, why they had come. The figure did not answer immediately. It remained still, its visor reflecting the broken world around them for a moment. It felt like nothing would happen. Then slowly the figure moved its head, turning toward him. Precise, controlled. The alien soldier felt a sudden weight in his chest. Not fear alone, something deeper, like being seen completely. Nothing hidden, nothing unknown. The figure raised its hand slightly, not in threat, but in signal, and suddenly, the entire battlefield changed again. Lights flickered across the ground. Hidden systems activating drones that had been destroyed came back to life. Screens across broken ships began to glow. Communication signals returned, but different, controlled by something else. The alien soldier looked around in shock. This was impossible. Systems that had been destroyed were now responding, but not to them, to the figures. The figure in front of him finally spoke, its voice calm, clear. Not loud, but impossible to ignore. We observed. The words were simple, but their meaning was heavy. The soldier tried to understand. Observed. For how long? From where? Why? Before he could ask, the figure continued. You were evaluated. The soldier felt his body freeze. Evaluated. Not rescued. Not saved. Evaluated. The truth settled into him slowly, painfully. Everything that had happened, the battle, the losses, the suffering, all of it had been seen, watched, measured. The figure stepped closer, just one step, but it felt like the distance had disappeared completely. Your actions determined the outcome. The soldier struggled to respond, his mind racing, trying to find meaning, trying to find control. But there was none. Everything had already been decided. The other armored figures began to move again. Not in combat, not in aggression, but in coordination. Some moved toward the remains of enemy forces, others toward the surviving allies. Each movement purposeful, each action planned. The alien soldier noticed something. Then they were separating. Choosing. Some survivors were being guided, others were ignored, and a few watched more closely. The realization struck him hard. This was not over. This was something else entirely. A process. A judgment. The figure in front of him lowered its hand. The systems around them stabilized, but remained under its control. You survived it, said, but survival is not victory. The words hit harder than anything before, because they removed all sense of relief. This was not a rescue, this was not a reward, this was a test, and it was still happening. The alien soldier looked around again. His fellow survivors, confused, scared, waiting. None of them understood what would happen next, and that was the most terrifying part. The unknown. The figure turned slightly, its attention shifting away from him, but before it moved completely, it spoke one final line. This was only the beginning. The alien soldier felt a cold wave pass through him, because now he understood. The battle they thought was the end was never the end. It was only the moment they were noticed, and whatever came next would decide everything. The battlefield remained silent, but the silence no longer felt empty. It felt watched, controlled, waiting, as if the entire galaxy itself had just taken a step closer and was now deciding what should exist and what should not. This was only the beginning. The words did not fade, they stayed inside every mind on the battlefield. Heavy, unavoidable, the alien soldier stood frozen, his thoughts moving slowly as if the world itself had changed speed. He looked around again at the survivors. Some were standing in shock, some had fallen to their knees. Others were staring at the armored figures as if trying to understand something that could not be understood. The battlefield that once felt like chaos now felt organized. Not by command, but by design, the armored figures continued to move across the ground. Not randomly, each step had meaning, each movement connected. They were scanning, analyzing, deciding. Small drones began to rise from the ground. Machines that were broken moments ago now active again. They moved through the air silently, stopping near each survivor. Small beams of light scanning their bodies, their armor, their wounds, their reactions. The alien soldier felt one of the drones approach him. It stopped in front of his face, hovering its light, passing over his eyes. His chest, his hands, he did not move. He could not. Something told him movement would change everything. The scan ended, the drone moved away. And for a brief moment, he felt relief, but it did not last, because he realized something: he had been judged. But he did not know the result. The armored figure who had spoken before turned toward a group of survivors. It raised its hand slightly, and something happened. Two of the survivors were surrounded by a faint field of light. They froze instantly, unable to move, unable to speak. The rest stepped back in fear, watching, waiting. The field of light tightened, and in a single moment both figures disappeared, not destroyed, not removed violently, just gone. As if they had never been there, the alien soldier felt a chill run through him. This was not random. This was selection, one by one. More drones moved across the battlefield, more scans, more silent decisions. Some survivors were left untouched. Others were marked, watched. More closely, the pattern was impossible to predict because it was based on something deeper, something unseen. The alien soldier tried to remember everything he had done during the battle. Every decision, every action, every moment. He wondered if it mattered. He wondered if it was enough or if it would decide his fate. The armored figures gathered again near the center. Their movements synchronized, perfect. One of them stepped forward, the same one, the one who had spoken, its presence calm, unchanging. But now there was something else: finality. It spoke again, its voice steady. "You were given a moment." The words echoed across the battlefield, simple but filled with meaning. The alien soldier listened carefully, his focus locked to choose. The figure continued, "How you act when you believe you will die defines what you are." The truth hit harder than anything before. This was not about strength, not about power, not about victory. This was about choice, about nature, about who they truly were. The alien soldier felt his breath, slow, his fear still there, but now mixed with understanding. This was never about saving them. This was about revealing them. The figure moved its gaze across the survivors, each one standing in silence, each one waiting, some filled with fear, some with regret, some with quiet acceptance. The drones returned to the armored figures, their scans complete, their data gathered. Everything had been seen, everything had been decided. The figure spoke once more: "Those who stand with control remain. Those who fall to fear are removed." The words spread, slowly, deeply. No one reacted. No one spoke, because they understood there was nothing left to change. The decisions had already been made. The alien soldier felt his body tense, waiting, not knowing which side he belonged to. The armored figures raised their hands together, a single synchronized motion, and the battlefield shifted again. Light moved across the ground, patterns forming systems. Activating the final phase had begun. The alien soldier closed his eyes for a brief moment, not in fear but in acceptance, because now he understood this was not survival, this was selection, and whatever happened next would decide if he was meant to continue or disappear forever. The final phase had begun. The battlefield no longer felt like a place of war. It felt like a place of decision. Everything was still, the air quiet, the ground glowing faintly with patterns that moved like living signals. The alien soldier opened his eyes slowly, his heart steady now, not calm but ready. He understood there was nothing left to do, no action to take, no words to speak. Only wait. The armored figures stood in a perfect circle, their positions exact, their movements synchronized. The drones hovered above them, forming a silent grid of light. All data collected, all choices recorded. One of the figures stepped forward again, the same one, always the same one, as if it carried the voice of all of them. It looked across the survivors one by one, no emotion, no hesitation, only certainty. Then it spoke, selection complete. The words did not echo. They settled, final, unchangeable. The ground beneath the survivors began to react. Light formed around certain individuals, soft at first, then stronger. The alien soldier felt the ground beneath him glow, a thin line of light surrounding his position. He did not move. He did not resist. He understood this was the answer around him. Others were marked as well. Some with light, some with nothing. The difference was clear. Those surrounded by light stood still. Those without it began to step back slowly, fear returning, uncertainty rising again. Then it happened. The light around the marked survivors rose, lifting them slightly from the ground, not high, just enough, their bodies weightless. Controlled, the alien soldier felt himself rise, his breath steady, his mind clear. He did not know what would happen next, but he no longer felt fear, only acceptance. The armored figure raised its hand, and the space around the marked survivors shifted, not visible, but felt like reality itself, bending then. In a single moment they disappeared. Gone. No sound, no trace, just absence. The battlefield fell silent again, but this time it was empty. The remaining survivors looked around in shock. Those who had not been chosen, those left behind, their fate, unclear, their purpose, unknown. The armored figures turned toward them slowly, their presence unchanged, their control absolute. One of them stepped forward, and for the first time there was something different in its voice. Not emotion, but warning. You remain because you must learn. The words struck deeper than any weapon, because they carried responsibility, not reward. The figure continued, this galaxy will change. Balance will be enforced, and you will remember. The remaining survivors stood in silence, their fear now replaced with something heavier, understanding. They had not been saved. They had been left to carry what they had witnessed, to spread it, to ensure it was never forgotten. The armored figures began to move again, not toward them, but away. Their task complete, their purpose fulfilled. The sky above shifted once more, the same crack of light forming again, opening slowly, calling them back one by one. The figure stepped into the light, disappearing without resistance, without sound, until none remained. The battlefield returned to stillness. But it was no longer the same place. It had changed permanently. The alien soldier who had been left behind slowly looked up at the sky. The light fading, the crack closing, as if it had never been there. He felt the weight of everything that had happened settle inside him. Heavy, real, unavoidable. He understood now. Humans did not arrive to save, they arrived to decide. And once they decided, nothing could change it. Far beyond that battlefield, far beyond their reach, humanity continued silent, watching, waiting, because the sky would open again one day, somewhere else, for someone else. And when it did, the outcome would already be known before anyone even realized they were being judged.